Good evening, Commonwealth, and thanks for watching the Channel 2 News. I'm Ashley McDowell. Let's take a look at tonight's top stories. Still, no results have been released from the testing done at the Saipan International Airport. Also tonight, U.S. territories are addressed in Washington, D.C. in response to COVID-19. And flights are ramping up between Guam and Saipan. We have the details. Stay with us. These stories and more are next.
My family is on whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Since we installed the Docomo whole home Wi-Fi, what did you guys notice about it?
When you pull up the driveway, it automatically connects, and I don't have to get out of my car right away and come upstairs to go on my phone.
My favorite thing is that it doesn't buffer when I'm watching YouTube.
My favorite thing is that when Addie calls now, there's no lag. Like before, it used to be where I couldn't see her sometimes and I have to hang up and then call her back, and now I don't have to do that.
You know what's a good thing too is that when you come over to visit, I could give you your own password. I can assign a time limit so that I can say that you can only be on it for 1 hour, so that means you won't get in trouble from your mom.
And then you can go home.
The thing that I love the most is that I can freeze the internet for periods of time so that we can enjoy dinner time like this. Why are you rolling your eyes? So I'll turn it back on after dinner. Whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume. Docomo Pacific, better together.
Half a day to Ruwami and good evening, Commonwealth. Today is Friday, May 1st, 2020. The Community Drive-Through Testing Initiative continues at the Saipan International Airport, but there is still no results.
The Governor's Task Force and CHEC would really like to thank the community for participating in the drive-through specimen collection process since Monday. What we're advising the community right now is that due to this high volume of testing, we're really asking our participants to wait at least 72 hours from the date of collection, where you'll get a call back from the CHEC callback team about your results. So we want to make sure that when folks are registering, we want them to provide their valid phone number to submit the request for the testing.
The COVID-19 task force is also working on official documentation for individuals that do get tested.
When they receive their testing results, so when you receive your testing results, we'll be also working out a process in which they'll receive a document saying that they're negative for COVID-19, or if they're positive, then we'll go about the normal PUI quarantine protocol that we've been doing.
The number of individuals that have been tested for COVID-19 from the Community Drive-Through Testing Initiative is high, but no results have been given at this time. On the CHCC website, as of May 1st, the number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Sinai remains at 14, with 2 deaths.
As of May 1st, 2020, there have been about 599 cumulative people tested through our Sinai Community Testing Initiative. So far, we are still awaiting some specimens results at the CHCC laboratory. It is a very high volume of testing, and as we're ramping up this community testing process, we want to make sure that we verify all the numbers and making sure that the testing platforms yield conclusive results. So we're asking people to be patient as we continue to wait for these results, and we'll get them to people as soon as possible within a reasonable time frame.
The Commonwealth Utilities Corporation held their regular board meeting today, and on the agenda is the ongoing cost-cutting measures.
Our first approach was non-personnel, as always the case in our reduction. Is non-personnel. However, we were not able to achieve our target of $500,000 a month, so now we're reaching into the personnel side, and we have different options that we've addressed or that we're reviewing. What's currently in front of me at this time is reduction in force, and I don't think reduction in force would be through policy would be the best option at this time. We're currently about 100 FTEs below our normal utility population, so we don't see that as an option. We believe that could be actually detrimental to the program. So we're looking at options such as austerity, furlough, and layoffs.
Camacho says he recommends austerity as the best option for cost cutting.
Best business decision at this time. It's obviously easily introduced and then expanded and then retracted, and we believe that's the best option going forward, where we can have our troubleshooters during the weekends and of course be ready to address all emergencies.
He says the austerity measures would include an 8-hour cut across the board. Currently, employees of CUC are getting paid 80 hours biweekly.
At the end of the day, this is a business decision. What is the right decision under this particular crisis? You know what I mean? And what is it that best fits everybody, and you achieve your economical goals, but at the same token, you don't sacrifice any other option. Any other areas of the program. It's critical that, especially in this crisis, that we provide the water, wastewater, and power services. People are at home, people obviously need to sanitize and properly, challenge this invisible enemy, and they need to be able to have all of these resources available to them. So CUC does, have some essential personnel working at this time, but at some point we need to expand. We need to get back and do installations, because there's many people now that are trying to isolate themselves and reduce cohabitating, and in order to do that, they need to get to their homes, new homes or older homes that need to get reconnected. And right now, with our skeletal crew, we just don't do those things because we try to minimize the contact and the interactions with the other people, and many times even internally.
As of press time, the CUC board members were still in session. Democrats from the Committee on Natural Resources held a digital forum discussing the federal coronavirus response in U.S. territories, giving the CNMI an opportunity to request for more supplies and financial aid. Sally Limas reports.
Chairman Raul Grijalva and Vice Chairman Gregorio Quilili-Sablan conducted a livecast roundtable discussion on how Congress can address serious problems with the Trump administration response to COVID-19 in the U.S. territories.
We are here virtually with panelists from all of the territories to hear about the virus response in American Samoa, the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, Puerto Rico, and U.S. Virgin Islands. More importantly, we want to receive the perspective about how Congress can help local governments adequately address this world pandemic. It's not just, and for the territories, it's even, I think they have a better understanding when we say world pandemic as opposed to just trying to keep it to the mainland here, the discussion. The territories face unique challenges based on geographic location, the unequal treatment under federal programs, and the dire financial situation.
Grijalva says one thing the virus has provided people is a perspective.
That as you go through and talk about recovery and relief, that there's a cumulative effect. When there has not been enough resources to a territory in this instance, as part of the history, suddenly you're drowned economically and in terms of health response with this very deadly virus. And so it becomes a cumulative effect of disparity at the beginning, and then you put disparity on top and you demand a response that is already taxing local communities and local governments.
Congressman Kilili Sablan says the CNMI continues to receive aid from Congress, FEMA, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Interior, and other federal agencies. But the goal is to find out if more is needed. Sablan added his office is currently working on getting funds for education.
We're really having a difficult problem with Department of Education trying to get them to release the Education Stabilization Fund. We got notice yesterday. They withdrew that notice from public view today, and but we're trying everything. So it's way overdue for our schools.
Esther Munia, representing the CNMI, delivered the status of how Governor Ralph Torres and his task force has been responding to the threat of the coronavirus.
It has evaporated our livelihood, throwing our tourism-based economy into swift and acrimonious decline. The CNMI government is shut down and is projecting a $65 million deficit. The island schools closed, many public and private employees have been furloughed, skyrocketing unemployment, the retiree pensions cut 25%, rendering healthcare unaffordable for so many families. The CHCC's success thus far is a result of a Herculean effort requiring nearly 18,000 staff hours and over $7 million. Thanks to the governor, the support from the governor, and the COVID-19 task force, and the federal partnership with HHS and DoD through FEMA, and further supported by the CARES Act, we have been able to secure additional ventilators, PPE, laboratory equipment, testing reagents, establish a temporary 40-bed care site, and a longer-term alternate care site. We have received help to assess our surge staffing needs and develop a territorial action plan. We can now test for the coronavirus on island, an ability that felt far from our reach just 1 month ago.
Muñoz says the CNMI remains vigilant but is vulnerable to upheaval should a larger outbreak ever occur.
This assistance has been core to our success, but we do need continued federal assistance to put an end to this war. We at the CHCC must fulfill our regular obligations while balancing the coronavirus response and forging an ambiguous future to prepare for the worst. Our strengths and our weaknesses are brought into focus, while the disruption has sparked innovation and illuminated opportunities for improvement. We are in ample supply of vision and determination, but we need your help to establish a reliable, equitable supply chain for PPE and testing reagents. We need funding to keep our staff, including our robust contact tracing team at work. We need support for the long overdue expansion and modernization of our 35-year-old hospital. Along with our governor, his cabinet and task force, and Congressman Sablan, we are working hard to safely bring the rest of the cinema back to work. Help us get there.
Other representatives shared what their nation are also experiencing and the help they need to get back on track. Chair Grijalva says one thing they must work on is to define what recovery means to each territory.
What are we going to look like when we say we've recovered? What are going to be the systemic policies that are in place that change the relationship? How are we going to look at disparate treatment and equity in terms of resources and attention? Because I think that one of the things learned is the lack of preparedness. Some people might argue that in terms of the federal government to this pandemic. It's inability to react, and the lack of resources for public health, the lack of resources in terms of stockpile for medical equipment, the lack of a planning and strategy to deal with a pandemic and a virus of this nature. And so, this virus didn't care who it affected and how it affected, but it has transformed the way we look at things. And I think it applies to the territories as well. And I'm looking forward to what comprehensive steps we're going to take to make the recovery, the relationship different going forward.
Reporting for KSPN News, I'm Sally Limis.
Flights between Guam and Saipan will resume starting tomorrow. According to United Airlines, beginning May 2nd, the Guam Saipan route will resume service. Flights will occur Mondays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. UA Flight 174 will depart Guam at 7:30 a.m. and arrive in Saipan at 8:11 a.m. The return flight, UA 117, will depart Saipan at 9:15 a.m. and arrive in Guam at 9:55 a.m. United Airlines does state in its release the schedule is subject to change given the COVID-19 environment and travel restrictions that are in place. United Airlines suspended services between Guam and Saipan for the month starting on April 6th at the request of Governor Torres. The 14-day quarantine directive will remain in effect for the incoming passengers at this time.
The directive still remains. All inbound travelers into the Commonwealth from off island will still be subject to the mandatory 14-day quarantine. However, the Governor's Task Force and CHEC are working on a protocol in which we will be allowing travelers to opt into testing, and then they would remain in quarantine while they await their testing results. So once the testing result comes back negative for travelers, the travelers will be able to receive a certification from CHEC that they tested negative for COVID-19, and then through the proper surveillance and screening process that CHEC utilizes with its testing, the travelers will be free to go, and will be continued to be advised on social distancing protocol, good hygiene, and ensuring that we continue to stop the spread.
Coming up, a bill that protects veterans and is authored by Congressman Sablan is signed into law. Find out more after the break.
Mom, are you sure? What about the shutters? And do you have your medicine?
Don't worry about us, love, okay? You take good care of yourself. Hi, my love. Yeah, sorry. The power went out, so I had to light up all the candles. Yeah. Yes, baby, yeah. I'm just glad our home phone's working and we're able to contact you.
King Elephant 100% Thai Jasmine Rice. New arrival from Thailand. Available in 20 pounds and 50 pounds at your leading supermarkets. For more information, please contact Longfen Corporation at 670-235-9168.
Welcome to the Marianas Eye Institute. Our office on Beach Road is staffed with U.S. certified eye care technicians, doctors that have received national recognition, and a friendly, professional staff that will look after you and your loved ones. With over 1,200 eyeglass frames to choose from and an in-house lab, we can make most glasses in about an hour, and we even feature a mobile clinic to bring eye care to you. Keep your eyes healthy and strong with professional eye care at the Marianas Eye Institute.
Welcome back to the Channel 2 News. The Nutrition Assistance Program will be distributing a bag of grocery items to every household that does the drive-through pickup for their benefits over the next couple of months. Take a listen.
So on Monday, we're going to start a commodities distribution program at the NAP office for the families when they come in to pick up their benefits. It was supposed to start today. We had a little bit of a snag for today, so we missed the first day's distribution. But starting Monday through the end of this month's distribution, we're going to be offering a bag, approximately $20 worth of non-perishable, shelf-stable food that we'll be able to give to the food stamp recipient households. We were given an extra amount of money in the America Cares Act called TFAP, which is Temporary Emergency Food Program, and we have to verify that we're hitting low-income families.
Roberts says the bag of food will be given for the months of May and June, and if funding permits, July as well.
Rhoda and Tinian apparently already started doing their distribution earlier this week. So we're trying to figure out how we can help them in the middle of this month, have like a special distribution day on each island. So we have something planned for them too. We just don't have all of the details worked out, but it will be something equivalent to what we're doing on Saipan now, on Tinian and Rhoda, and it'll probably be in the middle of the month.
Also, in speaking with Dale Roberts, those participating in the Grab and Go program are asked to follow the guidelines of 1 meal pack per child per day. The Grab and Go meal distribution provides free breakfast, lunch, and a snack to those under the age of 18. 1 meal package per child per day. But PSS Food and Nutrition Services Director Dale Roberts says some families are not following the guidelines.
Now our rules are that every child is allowed 1 meal set every day. Apparently some people have taken that to mean 1 meal set per day per location. So we've had a few cars that we have documented have gone to more than one of the sites. So today we passed out a flyer explaining to everybody, no, you're not allowed to go to more than one site. That breaks the rule as it's written even on the flyers that we've put out. So, and a lot of people maybe they just didn't realize that. And I want to believe that people just didn't realize that. But we also had some cars that went to more than 1, more than 2, more than even 3 sites. So we put the word out today that that's not allowed, so that next week, hopefully, that is diminished greatly.
Roberts says the workers at each site are keeping track of the vehicles coming through to pick up meal packages.
There are a number of federally funded staff currently working at PSS. Some of them are Title I teachers, some of them are federally funded teachers who are still getting a paycheck, who are not furloughed. And a number of them have volunteered to help. They're still getting paid, but they volunteered to help. And some of the Title I teachers have also volunteered to help on their time as part of their day to help us do surveillance on the license plates on the cars that are coming through our sites.
Roberts states if this does continue, it could result in the suspension of the Grab and Go program.
2 things could happen. One thing is we would need to suspend it until we can put safeguards in place to maintain program integrity. Another thing that could happen is that we continue serving and the USDA does an audit and they find out that these days we didn't follow the rules as well as we could have, and they will make us pay that money back out of locally generated funds, which we don't have. So trying to help everybody while still maintaining the guidelines so that we don't get double hit.
He says the guidelines are simple and is just asking every family to follow them.
So each child is allowed to have 1 meal set per day. So 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, and 1 snack. It doesn't matter where you get it. If you pick it up at Marianas High School, great. Just only go to Marianas High School that day. If you pick it up at Garapan School, great. But don't go to another school that day. You don't necessarily have to go to where your children are attending, but you can only go to 1 site each day.
President Trump signs the Veterans Coronavirus Bill into law, a legislation authored by Congressman Gregorio Khalili-Sablan that protects veterans' housing and allowance. Sally Lemus has more.
Veterans enrolled in vocational rehabilitation and education programs are now protected. The newly signed legislation allows the Veterans Administration to continue housing payments and to provide a subsistence allowance through the end of the term in case schooling will stop due to the coronavirus. Vets who are currently participating in the vocational rehabilitation and education will also receive an additional 2-month allowance. Congressman Gregorio Khalili-Sablan says the coronavirus is hurting everyone, and his legislation aims veterans all over the nation who are doing their best to build up skills in order to enter the job market. Another part of the bill prevents vets from losing eligibility time for education support when they do not receive credit for classes cut short by the coronavirus. The Student Veteran Coronavirus Response Act, a provision from the bill, grants the Veteran Administration to continue paying student veterans who are on work study, even if they lose on-campus jobs due to the virus. Student vets will also continue to receive housing allowance.
Coming up after the break is your KSPN2 weather report.
At one of Saipan's beaches, this mother lays about 100 eggs under the cover of darkness. She hides her nest as best she can and then slowly makes her way back to the ocean. The eggs hatch and the babies head for the sea, where they will face a daily dose of danger. Just 1 in 1,000 will make it to adulthood. Those that do will one day lay their own eggs. Sea turtles are protected under CNMI law. If you see one that is stranded or if you see illegal activity, call the hotline at 287-8537.
My family is on whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Since we installed the Docomo whole home Wi-Fi, what did you guys notice about it?
When you pull up the driveway, it automatically connects, and I don't have to get out on the car right away and come upstairs to go on my phone.
My favorite thing is that it doesn't buffer when I'm watching YouTube.
My favorite thing is that when Addie calls now, there's no lag. Like before it used to be where I couldn't see her sometimes and I have to hang up and then call her back, and now I don't have to do that.
You know what's a good thing too is that when you come over to visit, I could give you your own password. I can assign a time limit so that I can say that you can only be on it for 1 hour. So that means you won't get in trouble from your mom.
And then you can go home.
The thing that I love the most is that I can freeze the internet for periods of time so that we can enjoy dinner time like this. Why are you rolling your eyes? So I'll turn it back on after dinner. Whole home Wi-Fi powered by Plume. Docomo Pacific, better together.
Here is your weather report. Today we had a high of 90, a low of 78, 65% humidity. Tomorrow partly cloudy with isolated light showers, east winds 15 to 20 miles per hour. Tomorrow we'll have a high of 90, a low of 79, seas 5 to 7 feet. High tide at 4:06 a.m., low tide at 9:21 p.m. Sunrise at 5:53 a.m. and sunset at 6:35 p.m. And thanks for watching the KSPN2 News. Have a great and safe rest of your weekend.